Chapter 883, The Unrest of the Pool Corps. At the estate, William was having the Mega Force Power Rangers train in the training grounds. William, let target practice begin. Mega Force Rangers, Legendary Ranger Mode, Space. The Mega Force Power Rangers turned into the Space Rangers. Troy Burrows turned into the Red Ranger, Noah Carver turned into the Blue Space Ranger, Thea Moran was the Yellow Space Ranger, Jake Halling was the Black Space Ranger, Emma Goodall was the Pink Space Ranger and Orion was the Silver Ranger. Me, boy, that was so cool how we teamed up with all the Red Rangers like in Forever Red. Nico, you said it. We should have team-ups for each color of the Rangers. Me, that's a great idea, Nico. Next will be the Blue Rangers. Noah Carver, I like that idea. The Mega Force Rangers as the Space Rangers blasted the targets with their weapons and they hit the dummies all over. They were reduced to flaming rubble and fiery explosions. Me, nice shooting. Good show. We turned and we saw the Space Rangers' friend Auric the Conqueror. James, to Auric, are you a friend of the Power Rangers? James Carnivine? Carnivine. Auric, I sure am. I'm Auric the Conqueror. Me, wow. I remember you. You are a powerful ally to the Space Rangers. Rodimus, why do they call you the Conqueror? Auric, because I like to conquer my enemies. Nico, that's a good way to put it. We later went back inside and we were having a talk with Auric. Buzzsaw, can you really grow to the size of a Megazord? Auric, I sure can. It's one of my most formidable traits. Miss Martian, I heard rumors of the lost Tiki of Auric. But I always thought they were a myth. Auric, well, you thought wrong, M. Gan. Miss Martian, I know. But it is amazing. Lola, older voice, it sure is. Me, Lola, how did you know how to use that incredible power during the fight? Lola, sighs, I actually have a secret to tell you. Lana, what is it, Lola? Lola, I played a lot of World of Warcraft on the computer. But I always play it whenever no one is looking. Nico, you play World of Warcraft too? Awesome. Me, Lola, that is so cool. Lily, I love World of Warcraft. Me, how far did you get, Lola? Lola, I played all the games from World of Warcraft to World of Warcraft, Battle for Azeroth. Nico, wow. Lori, that is literally impressive. Lincoln, who do you think taught her? Me, you are a great teacher, Lincoln. How long did it take you to beat all the games, Lola? Lola, let's see. It took me 18 days to beat all the games each, and there are 7 expansions now. So I beat them in 144 days. Lisa, that's 4 months, 3 weeks, 1 day, 5 hours, 46 minutes, and 39 seconds. Me, wow. That is impressive. Lily, way to go, Lola. Nico, that is amazing. Lainey, I'm amazed, Lola. It usually takes years to beat games like those. Vince, no kidding. Carol, it's an awesome achievement. Nico, I played World of Warcraft myself. But I can't remember where I stopped it. Me, that's okay, Nico. But the scariest part of the whole series was Cataclysm featuring Deathwing the Destroyer. That dragon was cool. But his hatred towards all of Azeroth knew no bounds. Lana, he was a scary dragon though. Me, they didn't call him Neltharion the Destroyer for nothing. Nico, that's true. Then the alarm went off. Me, uh-oh. We went to the computer and we saw that something was terrorizing a local swimming pool at a high school. Me, this is unusual. Something is terrorizing the swimming pool in Gotham Royal York High School. Lori, the school is closed for the day. Nico, nonetheless, we better get over there. Me, right. We were off to Gotham Royal York High School. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Gotham Royal York High School swimming pool. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. We were at the swimming pool. Lainey, okay, this doesn't add up. I don't see anything. Nico, yeah, there's nothing here. Lana, yet I don't see anything. Me, Let's see. This better not be a false alarm. I looked up on my device and saw that the disturbance was at the right location. It was a supernatural disturbance. Me, well, the location is right. Maria, maybe it's in the swimming pool. Horsa, go check, would you? Horsa, sure. Horsa went down into the pool and she then saw something terrifyingly gruesome. She saw a dead corpse down at the bottom of the deep end of the pool. She brought it up to the surface and it landed on the floor beside us. Lola, oh yuck. Lisa, gadzooks. Lily, whoa. Lucy loud, gasp. Nico, whoa. What happened to him? Horsa jumped into Maria's arms. Horsa sees the dead body of Butterscotch. Maria, I'm scared. Maria, it's all right, Horsa. We went over and did an autopsy. Nico, this was a recent kill. Lola, what happened to him? Me, this was not accidental drowning. Something in this pool drowned him on purpose. Maria, maybe I can find out what it is. Then we smelled an awful odor. Nico, sniffs, do you smell that? Me, oh yuck. Lori, it's not me. And even if it was my shoe. Lucy loud, wait. This is not Lori. This is the source of the supernatural disturbance that was going on. Me, so whenever it's near, it emits a foul odor that smells like rotten eggs. Lucy loud, exactly. Lisa, fascinating. Maria was now in her swimsuit. Maria, in her swimsuit, come out, wherever you are. 2 kids then arrived. The kids were science lab genius Zeke Matthews and Cloris, local swim team member and science lab partner of Zeke and 2 very close friends of mine. Me, Zeke, Cloris. Zeke, hey JD. You here to stop whatever is in the pool? Me, that's what we found here. But we can't see it. Zeke, I have a solution. Methyl orange reacts with anything that's acidic. That's what this thing smells like. Its acid smells like rotten eggs. Me, good thinking. Zeke poured some methyl orange into the pool. Lola, here we go. Maria, wait, I see something. Me, stand back. The mass started to take shape and then out of the pool arose a terrifying zombie creature. It was the corpse. Asterisk. It is an evil zombie and an angry spirit who preys on anyone who dares to disturb his eternal sleep. Also, it was invisible and couldn't be seen and can blend in perfectly with water. However, it gave off a hint when its presence was near. Since it was a rotting corpse, it reeked like decay and mostly sulfur and acid. When it came close by anyone around, they would smell the acid-like odor. It was the most unpleasant foul smell. Whenever someone was in the pool or sometimes after a certain period of time, it would prey on the person swimming and pulled him or her underwater until they drowned and died. In the 1950s there was an old cemetery next to a high school. To expand the school and build the swimming pool, the graveyard was moved and all of the bodies were dug out and moved. However, his body was forgotten and remained where he was. Soon in 1954 the high school swimming pool opened up. One day during the school lifeguards Charlie Dempster's shift, his girlfriend Cindy's little brother Joe was swimming in the pool. The corpse sensed his presence and came after him and pulled him underwater and drowned him to death. Charlie Dempster tried to save him, but it didn't let him. Also, it soon drowned 3 more people and the pool was drained, closed off from the school and forgotten. The door to the pool house was covered by a row of lockers inside a change room. Then in 1994, science geek Zeke Matthews, trying to impress school swim team member Cloris, showed her where the school pool was. Soon, with her ambition and determination, the pool was reopened. The corpse soon tried to grab and drown Cloris and her friend Greta, but they got out of the pool just in time. Later, when Chloris and Zeke are relaxing and studying chemistry in a raft in the pool, the corpse came after them and tried to pull them under and drown them too. Then the school janitor, who also happened to be Charlie Dempster, saved them and pulled them both out in time. Zeke got the idea that if they can see it, then they have a better chance to try and stop it. Since it was part acid, Zeke poured some methyl orange into the pool. The chemical reacts with acid, turning something acidic red. Soon the corpse emerged from the water as a hideous and terrifying zombie, that is a partially decomposing, part skeleton and all colored red. Since it was visible now, it couldn't hide anymore, so it began traveling around through water pipes. Zeke didn't know how to stop it until Chloris reminded him about his volcano experiment, in which you mix mange night with water till explode, since the corpse was water-based. When Chloris swam to the bottom of the pool to retrieve the dropped jar of mange night, the corpse almost got her. Zeke jumped in to save her and distract it, and then it began to close in on him and almost got him because Zeke was an inexperienced swimmer. Charlie pulled him out in time, then Chloris doused it with the mange night. The corpse loudly and violently screamed and moaned as it bubbles and oozes and sizzles and smokes and steams and evaporates away into nothing. After that it was never seen or heard from again. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Lola, what they? Me, holy fuck. Lisa, I knew methyl orange would flush it out. Rodimus, so that is the thing that was terrorizing the pool. Lucy loud, gasp. This is the forgotten corpse that was left here when we built this swimming pool. Zeke, it sure is. Me, let's see how it likes this. I slashed it with my sword. But the blade of the sword couldn't cut it. It was a corpse made entirely of pure water. Nico, it's a corpse made entirely of pure water. Need some help, guys? We turned and we saw Suijitsu Hoshiki and Yagura, the former 4th Mizu Cage. Me, Suijitsu, Yagura. Boy, are we glad to see you. Let's get this freak. We powered up and transformed. Tori Hansen, let me at him. Ninja Storm. Ranger form. Huh. Tori Hansen turned into her Power Ranger form. Tori Hansen, echoing, power of water. Mega Force Rangers, Legendary Ranger mode, Ninja Storm. The Mega Force Power Rangers turned into the Ninja Storm Rangers. Tori Burrows was the Red Ninja Storm Ranger, Emma Goodall was the Navy Blue Thunderstorm Ranger, Dia Moran was the Yellow Ninja Storm Ranger, Jake Halling was the Crimson Ranger, and Orion was the Green Samurai Ranger. And Noah Carver was the Aqua Ninja Storm Ranger. Madison Rocca, time for some Mystic Force power. Magical Source. Mystic Force. Madison Rocca turned into the Blue Mystic Ranger. Madison Rocca, fluid as the sea. Blue Mystic Ranger. We went at the corpse and I punched him in the face and my fist went right through him. Me, conventional methods won't work. Lana, we'll have to use our powers on him. Me, let's do it. I fired a powerful blast of force lightning at the corpse and it electrocuted him and he screamed. Lincoln fired a powerful blast of lightning and so did Linka. We electrocuted the corpse all over. Nico, this corpse has failed this world. Troy Burrows. It sure has. Troy fired a powerful blast of fire from his Hawk Blaster, Tori and Dia fired powerful blasts of water and earth from their swords and slashed the corpse, cutting it. Emma Goodall and Dia and Orion slashed and blasted the corpse all over and Jake slashed him as well. Noah Carver fired a blast of blue lightning at the corpse and electrocuted it. Suijitsu, let me help out. Echoing, water style, water dragon jutsu. Suijitsu fired a powerful water dragon made of pure water at the corpse and it hit it and exploded. Crab Me, let's see him survive this. Echoing, water style ninja art, Mega Tsunami Plesio Crush. This was a powerful U-rank jutsu that takes a lot of water from one source and turns it into a powerful plesiosaurus made entirely of pure water and crushes the target with the devastating force of a mega tsunami. It took all the water out of the pool and turned into a deadly giant plesiosaur made of pure water, and it slammed onto the corpse with devastating force and splashed all over the place with the power of a massive 1,000-foot wave. The water flowed back into the pool. But the corpse was not defeated yet. Nico, wow. That was powerful. Lincoln, it sure was. Madison Rocca, it was amazing though. We went over and stood on the water and on the edges of the pool. Me, let's show this freak some teamwork. Suijutsu, you got it JD. Madison Rocca, let's do it. Suijutsu, echoing, water style, super shark bomb jutsu. Suijutsu fired a powerful blast of water that turned into a deadly giant shark that explodes on contact. Madison Rocca, Magi Staff. Water power. Madison Rocca fired a powerful blast of water at him. Suijutsu and Madison Rocca, Super Shark Tsunami Strike. The water blasts combined and turned into a massive tsunami of super shark bombs, and they all hit the corpse and exploded with incredible power. Crass play Yagura, awesome. Nico, that was awesome. Me, it sure was. Yagura, time to show this monster what the Mizu cage can do. Yagura was enveloped in a red three-tailed chakra cloak and its power was intense. Me, whoa. So that is the power of the Jinchuriki. Its power is incredible. Yagura's red chakra cloak with all three of the three-tailed turtle's tails, and he had its yellow eyes with red sclera and his teeth were fangs. Me, wow. Yagura, your power is incredible. Yagura, it's the power of me and Isabu working together. Nico, wow. So you and Isabu are now partners. Yagura, that's right. And best friends. Me, I'm happy for you both Yagura. Go get him. Yagura, with pleasure. Tori Hansen, let's get him. Tori Hansen fired a powerful blast of water. Yagura, echoing, rough sea spume. Yagura fired a massive blast of water from his mouth. Yagura and Tori Hansen, Mega Tsunami Super Slam Spume. The blasts both hit the corpse at the same time and exploded. Crass play Nico, whoa. What power? Oceanus Shenron, that was wicked intense. Lily, it sure was. Rodimus, time for some serious power. Cyber Key power. The Autobot Cyber Planet Key went into Rodimus's back and enhanced his photon lasers 100-fold. Miss Martian, you terrorized our swimming pools for the last time. Mars Cyber Key power. The Mars Cyber Planet Key went into Miss Martian's right arm device and enhanced her powers 100-fold. Rodimus and Miss Martian, photon laser rayburst. Rodimus and Miss Martian fired laser vision and photon blasts, and they hit the corpse and exploded. Crab Carol, let's see how it likes this. Saw it on Godzilla vs Biollante from 1988. Carol fired a powerful blast of Godzilla's atomic ray and it hit the corpse and it exploded all over him. Crab Me, whoa. It sure as hell doesn't like atomic energy. Buzzsaw, no it doesn't. Cyber Key power. The Decepticon Cyber Planet Key went into Buzzsaw's back and it enhanced his mortar cannons 100-fold. James, Pokemon, let's see you handle some plant power. Animatron Cyber Key power. The Animatron Cyber Planet Key went into his right arm device and enhanced his Carnivine's powers 100-fold. James, Pokemon Carnivine, use Leaf Tornado. Buzzsaw and James, Explosive Leaf Cyclone Blast. Carnivine fired a powerful tornado of leaves and Buzzsaw fired his mortar cannons. The blasts hit him all at once and exploded. Crab Me, let's finish this freak for good and send him to the afterlife. Maria, way ahead of you JD. Ferocious Water Maelstrom Dragon. Maria formed a powerful tornado of pure water and it turned into a deadly dragon and it slammed into the corpse and exploded with a tremendous splash. Cross. Lisa, it's time to dissolve this monster of H2O. Errol C. Doubt dry them. Lisa fired a powerful beam of heat at the corpse and it was screaming as it was being dried up. Chloris put on some protective gloves. Chloris, this is for terrorizing our swimming pool. Magnetite dissolved dust. Chloris dumped magnetite powder onto the corpse and it was dissolving into nothing. Chloris, you'll never haunt another pool again. It was gone for good. Me, good riddance to that corpse. Lincoln, yep. But that was awesome. Nico, it sure was. Chloris, I remember that when the school was built, there was a cemetery here over 50 years ago. They forgot one of the bodies here. Lucy Loud, then that must have been the body they left behind. Me, Danny, you think you can go ghost and bring that coffin up here? Danny, I sure can. I'm going ghost. Danny turned into Danny Phantom. He went intangible and went underground and he found the coffin that the corpse was in. He brought the coffin up and put it on the floor near the pool. Me, good work Danny. We dusted the coffin off and we saw a name on it. Me, there's a name on here. Nicholas McTenso. December 16th, 1884 to June 22nd, 1958. Jessie gasped when she heard that name. Jessie K. Oh no. Lucy Loud. Gasp. That is a name widely feared here in Michigan. Jessie K. He sure was Lucy. Suijitsu. Boy, this guy sounded like he was really bad news. Jessie K. He sure was. He was a ruthless gangster that lived here in Michigan. He was widely known for killing hundreds of people here back in the 1940s and 50s. Lincoln? Whoa. That's awful. Lynn, never knew about him. Me, I heard about him. He was said to have robbed lots of banks all over the state. He was the most feared gangster next to Al Capone. Jessie K. He was. But when the feds were closing in on him, he fell off a bridge and drowned. They found his body and buried him in an unmarked grave. Me, and that unmarked grave was the one body they forgot about here, which led him to come back from beyond the grave to continue his killing spree. Maria, so not even hell was willing to accept him. Nico, well now he's there and this time we've now seen the last of him. Me, yep. We opened the coffin and it was totally empty. Me, this coffin is empty. Laney, that was his corpse we were fighting. Maria, whoa. So we were fighting an old gangster from the late 50s. Nico, yet. Chloris, I never even knew about this. Zeke, me neither. Me, but now we've seen the last of the evil Nicholas McTenso. Nico, we sure have. He has failed this country and this planet. Maria, he sure has. We later went back to the estate. We gave the coffin back to the undertaker at a local funeral home. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. At the estate we were watching TV. Alchemy, hey JD, I heard that you guys stopped an evil serial killer from Estonia named Lena Klammer. Me, oh yeah. That was one of our most dastardly villains we took down. And she had a dark history. I pulled up her profile. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. In the final film, according to Dr. Varva from the Sarn Institute, an Estonian mental institution, she is a serial killer who has already murdered at least 7 people that they know of. For this, she was later caught and placed in the Sarn Institute. She was one of the wildest and violent patients, who would always hurt the staff employees. These behaviors eventually resulted in her being put in a straitjacket. She would constantly get out of them due to her fighting and resisting, but developed several scars as a result. After this, she escaped and used her childlike body to pretend to be a child named Esther, where she forged documents and created a new identity. Because of this, she is never found and is later adopted by the Sullivans, an American family. She tried to seduce her adopted father, but failed. She killed everyone and burned the house down, feigning that it was an accident. Following this, she was sent to a nearby American orphanage, where she did not get along well with the other children. Despite this, nobody suspected her true identity, as Lena had prosthetic false teeth made and wore makeup to help her look younger than she really was. She makes a good impression on another family. Orphan. After living with her new adopted family for several weeks, Kate grows suspicious when Esther expresses far more knowledge of sex than would be expected for a child of her age. Esther further antagonizes Kate by cutting flowers planted as a memorial to her stillborn child, casually reveals when another woman is flirting with John, given that he previously had an affair, and reads intimate details from Kate's diary. She is further alarmed when Sister Abigail, the head of the orphanage, warns her and John about Esther's tendency to be around when things go wrong. Esther overhears this and later kills Sister Abigail by bludgeoning her to death with a hammer. She convinces Max to help her with this and they hide all pieces of evidence in their treehouse. A few days later at school, she opens Daniel's backpack, causing his books to fall out when he's walking up the stairs. Kate gets out of the car to help him but leaves it running. Esther comes back to the car, puts the gear selector in neutral and takes off the parking brake, causing the car to roll down the hill with Max still inside. Daniel decides to retrieve the hammer, which was used to kill Sister Abigail, to prove Esther's guilt. However, when he announces his plans to Max, it is overheard by Esther. The next day, Daniel goes to the treehouse and finds it unlocked. He enters the treehouse and searches for the hammer, but finds nothing. Esther appears behind him and sets the treehouse ablaze before Daniel does anything. She leaves the now on fire treehouse and locks Daniel inside, in an attempt to kill him. Daniel climbs out from the treehouse through the window and tries to escape the fire, only ends up falling to the ground, injured and unconscious. Esther tries to kill him with a brick, but Max shoves her out of the way. Daniel is hospitalized because of the neck injury and abdominal bleeding. Esther unsuccessfully tries to kill Daniel at the hospital, but doctors save him. Kate, knowing what happened, furiously slaps Esther and knocks her down, and is immediately subdued and sedated. Esther tries to seduce a drunken John, who finally realizes Kate is telling the truth, and threatens to send her back to the orphanage. Esther, angry and hurt, ransacks her room and takes off her clothing/makeup, unwraps her breasts, and removes the ribbons around her neck and wrists. Meanwhile, as Kate is coming out of sedation, she receives a call on her cell phone from the Sarn Institute. Dr. Varava, who works at the institute, reveals that Esther is actually a 33-year-old woman from Estonia named Lena Klammer. She has hypopituitarism, a disorder that stunted her physical growth and caused dwarfism, and, as a result, she spent most of her life posing as a little girl. The doctor tells Kate that Lena is dangerous and especially violent. At home, Esther, who is hurt from being scolded, kills John. Max witnesses her father being stabbed by Lena/Esther and hides in a hamper in her closet. Kate rushes home, only to find John dead. Lena gets a revolver from John's safe, shoots Kate on the arm and hunts Kate down before she goes to search for Max. While firing at Max in their greenhouse, Kate manages to break through from above Lena/Esther and knocks her out. Lena later follows Kate outside to a frozen pond and lunges at Kate, where they fall and struggle onto the ice as Max watches from a hill above the pond. Max maneuvers herself to grab the gun that was dropped by Kate during the struggle. She fires at Lena/Esther but hits the ice instead, which breaks, causing Kate and Lena/Esther to drop into the water below. After a brief struggle under the ice, during which Kate is stabbed in the leg and Lena/Esther is elbowed in the face, Kate climbs out partially, followed by Lena/Esther, begging Kate not to let her die, addresses her as mommy while holding a knife behind her back. Kate then furiously responds, "I'm not your fucking mommy," and kicks Lena/Esther in her face, breaking her neck, sending her back into the pond, dead, with blood rushing through the water, while Max and Kate are met by the police moments after. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Sheen gasped. Sheen. Boy, she was really screwed up. Me. She was. She got 334 life sentences without parole in the Triple Supermax psychiatric unit in Antarctica, and if she escapes, she will be killed on sight. Sheen. Good. She can stay there and burn. Me. But she wasn't nearly as bad as Norman Bates. Sheen. The serial killer hotel clerk from Psycho? Me. That's him, and he was really fucked up to the core. I revealed what his history was. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Norman Bates was born in August 1934 just outside of Fairvale, California, to John Bates and Norma Spool. Norma was a manipulative and controlling woman who did not allow Norman to have a social life. She was deeply religious and paranoid, possibly suffering from a severe form of schizophrenia. Norma indoctrinated her son and taught him sexuality was a sin and that all women, besides herself, were whores. In 1940, when Norman was 6 years old, his father was stung to death by bees. In Psycho 2 and 3, Norma's sister Emma Spool killed him, while in the original novel, John simply left the family when Norman was a baby. Following his death, Norma began to practice sadistic control over her son, and on several occasions throughout his puberty sexually aroused him on purpose, only to punish and humiliate him afterward by dressing him as a woman and calling him a girl. As a result of Norma's overbearing control and obscene sexual smothering, Norman developed an extreme Oedipus complex. Later in his adult life, Norman confessed to having had full sexual intercourse with Norma when he was a teenager, with one particular instance resulting in her becoming pregnant. Norma became repulsed by the idea that she was carrying the child, and conducted an abortion. In the novel, it's stated Norman tried to join the army once, but was rejected. In 1949, Norma became romantically involved with Chet Rudolph, Joe Considine in the novel, whom she would eventually marry. It would be Chet who would give her the idea of opening a motel. Around this time Norman had a heated argument with her whilst hanging some washing, during which she called him a mistake and expressed extreme hatred towards him. Her new husband was crude, egotistical, chauvinistic, and repeatedly teased Norman over his relationship with Norma, even beating the boy during one of their boxing lessons. Chet would repeatedly allude to his sex life with Norma in conversation. Over time Norman became extremely jealous of Chet, and on a summer night Norman poisoned Norma and Chet's iced tea with arsenic, killing them both. Chet did not go down easily and ended up attacking Norman whilst in the throes of agonizing arsenic poisoning, eventually succumbing to the toxin and falling down the stairs to his death. After both Chet and Norma had died, he dragged Norma's corpse to the basement and embalmed it. As Norman matured into a young adult, he began to emulate Norma, believing himself on occasion to be her, even going so far as wearing her clothes and a wig. He would sometimes sit in her chair and speak in her voice, doing anything to convince himself that she was still alive. Unlike in the film version, where Norman is depicted as handsome, tall, and in his 20s, he was presented in the novel as a short, overweight alcoholic in his 40s. Hitchcock changed this to make the character more sympathetic, as well as to make the twist more unpredictable. He was also shown in the novel to have an interest in the occult as well as Satanism. During this period, he took over ownership of the Bates Motel. Norman had several unsuccessful sexual encounters with women as a young man, with at least 2 known to have resulted in murder after they aroused him. One of his early victims, a teenager called Holly, snuck into his house and accidentally wandered into his mother's bedroom, where she found Norma's mummified corpse lying on the bed. Recoiling in horror, she was soon stabbed to death by Norman, who was hiding in the closet dressed in women's clothing and a wig. Norman would later strangle and drown another teenage girl under similar circumstances. The mother personality in his head eventually would become so overbearing as to consume him completely, taking over his body and committing terrible acts of violence and murder. When the mother persona subsided, normally after committing a murder, Norman would remember very little of the act of killing, and become highly distressed and remorseful, sometimes even baffled as to where evidence such as blood and torn clothing came from. Mother is cold, calculated, and panther-like. However, when Norman is caught off guard and still himself, he is clumsy, stammering and very panicked. Adult life and first killing spree, Psycho. 25 years later, in December 1959, realty clerk Marion Crane fled Phoenix, Arizona, having stolen $40,000 worth of her employer's money, and stopped off at the Bates Motel for a night. She had stolen the money to help pay off large debts accrued by her lover Sam Loomis, with whom she was having an affair. It was a stormy night, and Norman allowed Marion to stay in cabin 1 at the motel. Norman found he was attracted to young Marion, and after watching her shower through a small hole he had drilled in the cabin wall, donned Norma's clothing, stormed into the bathroom, and stabbed her to death in the bathtub with a large kitchen knife. Wrapping up her body in a shower curtain, he would later stuff it into the trunk of Marion's car, and push the vehicle into a nearby swamp. Shortly after Marion's murder, her absence is reported to the police by her sister Lila, and a detective named Arbogast locates the Bates Motel and questions Norman about Marion. He lies to Arbogast and denies ever having met her nor giving her lodgings. Arbogast is not convinced by Norman's story and later breaks into the Bates house in search of clues, where he is murdered by Norman, once again dressed as a woman. Lila, and indeed Marion's lover Sam Loomis, soon become concerned when Arbogast fails to report back to them, and head to Fairvale where they visit the local sheriff, who had spoken to Arbogast just prior to his disappearance. The sheriff tells Lila and Sam that he was puzzled by Arbogast, who said he had intended to visit Norma Bates at some point during the investigation, despite the knowledge that she had been dead for some time. Sam and Lila rent a room from Norman and find evidence in cabin 1 confirming that Marion had been there. Sam decides to enter the Bates house, where he is subdued, but not killed, by Norman. Lila in the meantime sneaks into the basement and finds Norma's desiccated corpse sat in a rocking chair. Dressed in women's clothing, Norman appears in the basement and attacks Lila, but is prevented from killing her by Sam, who comes to the rescue. Norman is arrested and incarcerated in a mental institution, where he would remain for 22 years. A psychiatrist declares Norman insane, and apparently completely dominated by the mother personality of his psyche. Police later discover Marion's car underwater and drag it from the swamp. Release from prison and second killing spree, Psycho 2. Norman's fate differs between the book Psycho 2 and its film adaptation. The novel sequel acted as a parody of Hollywood slasher films. In it, Norman escapes from the asylum after remaining there for 20 years by strangling a nun to death with her rosary beads and using her outfit as a disguise. He then gets into a van with another visiting nun, kills her by hitting her with a tire iron, and rapes her corpse. He steals her car, drives off and picks up a hitchhiker with the intent of killing him and using his body to fake his death. He attacks the hitchhiker, but the hitchhiker overpowers him and kills him, burning the car to hide any evidence. After Norman's body was discovered by his doctor, Adam Claiborne, he assumes Norman's personality and starts a killing spree on a film production of the original Psycho killings. The producers of the film version did not like the idea and chose to go in their own direction with the sequels. In the film sequel, after a lengthy court hearing, Norman was released from custody in 1983 after 24 years. Despite protests from relatives of his victims, including Lila Crane, a judge rules Norman to be rehabilitated and orders his release. Accompanied by his psychiatrist Dr. Bill Raymond, Norman returns to his family home, which he finds is just how he left it. The motel is still open, being run by the slobbish and obtuse Warren Toomey. Norman gets a job at a local diner run by the kindly Emma Spool and gets to work in the kitchen preparing meals. He is met with distrust by many but is generally accepted by Mrs. Spool and the head chef. He becomes friendly with the waitress Mary Samuels, a girl in her late teens whom he allows to stay at the motel one night after an argument with her boyfriend. Upon arrival back at the motel with Mary, Norman discovers that Toomey has been allowing prostitutes and drug users on the premises, and dismisses him on the spot. He tells Mary to go up to the house while he deals with Toomey. Despite her reluctance, she goes anyway, Back at the house, Norman prepares a sandwich for Mary but becomes unnerved when he finds a kitchen knife in a drawer. Sensing Norman's unease, Mary becomes uncomfortable and decides to leave. Norman reveals to Mary that he is lonely and would appreciate her company if she stays, and makes light of the fact that he killed his mother by poisoning her all those years ago. Mary laughs along nervously, and eventually stays the night in the spare room. The next morning, a drunken Toomey picks a fight with Norman whilst he is working in the kitchen, and later follows him back to the motel, where a dark figure slashes his face and then kills him. Meanwhile, Norman starts getting bizarre phone calls from a woman claiming to be his mother and ends up seeing the specter of her looking out of the bedroom window one day. He runs up to the bedroom, where he finds that it is furnished how it used to be 2 decades ago. Moments later, somebody locks him inside. A short while later, a teenage couple break into the basement to have sex and are disturbed by a dark figure in women's clothing. The male is murdered, however, the female manages to escape. After a suspicious note is found in the diner kitchen, allegedly from Mother, Norman starts to believe that he is slipping back into insanity. Meanwhile, Lila Crane arrives in Fairvale and it is revealed that Mary is Lila's daughter. She chastises Mary for her friendship with Norman, and in a private conversation between the two, it is revealed that Lila had been toying with Norman, making the phone calls, dressing up as his mother, and even went as far as furnishing Norma's bedroom in an attempt to drive Norman to the edge again. Mary is revealed to have been complicit in this, but shows regret at being involved, much to Lila's annoyance. Lila then becomes focused on the alleged death of the teenage boy at Norman's house, after hearing of the missing person report filed by his terrified girlfriend. Sheriff Hunt refuses to investigate apparent connection to Norman due to the lack of evidence, adding to Lila's dismay. Despite Lila's apparent complicity, the strange goings-on continue at the Bates house, with the line between reality and insanity becoming increasingly blurred when Lila is herself murdered by a dark figure whilst in the process of donning her Norma outfit. Mary is present when the police discover Toomey's body stuffed into the trunk of his car, and runs to warn Norman that the police are on the way to arrest him as a suspect. She finds Norman having a psychotic episode at the house. He is on the phone talking to his psychiatrist, yet believes he is talking to Norma. Mary is fearful that he may be spiraling back into madness, so she dons Norma's clothes and pretends to be her in an attempt to have him snap out of it. Whilst talking to Norman on another house phone, she is surprised by Dr. Raymond, and accidentally stabs and kills him. Norman meanwhile can no longer cope and fails to distinguish between what is real and what is not. Mary ultimately becomes the one and only suspect in the killings, when she is caught red-handed by the police whilst appearing to intend to stab Norman. She is shot dead, and the case is closed with her named as the murderer. Norman's involvement remained unsolved, as he was never able to differentiate between reality and his visual and auditory hallucinations. He is allowed to return home by the authorities since he was innocent. Learning the truth. Sometime after Mary's death at the hands of the police, Norman's former boss Emma Spool paid him a visit and confessed to him that she was his real mother, with Norma having been actually his aunt who looked after him whilst she was institutionalized. Norman was too young to remember the transition and had always assumed Norma was his mother. Emma had been the true killer, having murdered Toomey, Lila, and the young boy who entered the basement, trying to protect Norman from any harm. As Emma sat and explained everything to him, Norman murdered her by hitting her with a shovel and took her body upstairs to embalm it, creating a new mother effigy for himself. He then opened the motel with Mother sitting in her chair watching him from the window of her room. Third killing spree and second incarceration. Psycho 3. Approximately 1 month after killing Emma Spool, Norman encountered and became infatuated with defrocked nun Maureen Coyle, who had fled her convent after having accidentally killed a fellow nun whilst trying to take her own life. Around the same time, Norman employed aspiring musician Dwayne Duke as a desk clerk at the motel, without realizing that Duke and Coyle had met some days before on the highway, and Duke had tried to rape her. Norman gives Coyle an extended stay for no fee in cabin 1 but becomes increasingly unnerved at her resemblance to Marion Crane, especially when he realizes they share the same initials. After watching her shower through the spy hole in the wall, Norman assumes his mother disguise and attempts to kill her. However, upon arriving in the bathroom, he finds that Maureen has run herself a bath and attempted suicide by cutting her wrists. As she fades into unconsciousness, she sees Norman's disguise but does not stay awake long enough to realize it is him. Instead, she has a hallucination of her own, seeing Norman as the Virgin Mary. Norman snaps out of his persona and takes Maureen to the hospital for treatment. Meanwhile, a pushy reporter, Tracy Venable, arrives in Fairvale to investigate the disappearance of Emma Spool, convinced, as Lila Crane was similarly convinced, that Norman had killed her and is still a threat to society. Sheriff Hunt tells her to back off and leave him alone, but she persists in her harassment of him, eventually telling Maureen about Norman's past, causing her to leave the motel in fear. With Maureen gone, Norman murders 2 guests overnight, one of which had just had sex with hired hand Dwayne Duke. After disposing of their bodies, the police searched the area but find nothing as Norman returns to find Spool's corpse missing. He soon finds Duke with the body, who tries to extort money out of Norman in exchange for keeping quiet. Norman sees through this with him and Duke entering a violent fight, resulting in Duke being subdued and thrown into Norman's car. Duke wakes up on the journey out of town, startling Norman, causing him to lose control of the vehicle and plow into a swamp, where Duke eventually drowns. Meanwhile, Maureen has realized her affections for Norman and comes back to Fairvale, where she and Norman share a tender moment on the staircase, but Mother unexpectedly calls out to Norman, startling him, which accidentally causes him to knock Maureen down the stairs to her death as Tracy, who had found her way in, stands by watching in horror. Norman tries to kill Tracy, but she reveals a little more to Norman about his past, and of Spool's role in his life, contradicting some of what Spool told him before he killed her. Spool was in love with his father John Bates, even though he was married to Norma, and one day killed him and kidnapped Norman out of spite. Norman was eventually returned to his mother, while Spool was institutionalized for severe mental health issues. Spool, as it would transpire, was not his mother but his aunt. In retribution for her lies, Norman ravages Spool's corpse with a knife. Sheriff Hunt finds Norman dressed in his disguise, knife in hand, completely delirious. He arrests him, where he is taken for evaluation, and incarcerated once again. As he is taken away, Norman proclaims he is free, implying that he is now released from his mother's influence. The Fran Ambrose talk show incident, Psycho 4, the beginning. 31 years later in 1990, radio talk show host Fran Ambrose hosted a nighttime special on matricide, inviting along various guests to the studio, including a rehabilitated murderer and a psychiatrist, Dr. Leo Richmond, to discuss the topic. Members of the public were invited to call in and talk freely about matricide. One particular caller, a gentleman identifying himself only as Ed, called in the early hours to talk about his violent past, an apparent sexual relationship with his abusive mother. Through an extensive conversation with Ed, Ambrose learned of a number of Ed's victims throughout the decades, and at various moments endured another persona as they spoke. Dr. Richmond knew enough of Ed's stories to convince himself that this was actually Norman Bates, who had not long been released from custody for a second time. Richmond demanded that Bates' calls are traced and the police informed, but Ambrose refuses and encourages the show to go on. Norman, or Ed as they know him, was married to a lady called Connie, and they were expecting a child together. He told Ambrose that Mother still bubbled close to the surface from time to time, and was telling him that the child would be just like him, a killer. As he talked, Norman inadvertently gave away his identity, as he admits that considered killing Connie and the unborn child to stop the Bates bloodline, but had so far managed to control himself. He soon ends the call as his temptation to perform the act gets to him. Norman ultimately gives in to Mother and tells Connie to meet him at the old Bates house as his birthday present, while he is really going to kill her. However, Connie manages to talk Norman down, convincing him that their child will be normal. In one last act of defiance, Norman has Connie wait for him outside as he torches the Bates house. As he does so, He recalls all the victims he killed over the years being haunted by the guilt before he narrowly escapes the house and leaves it to burn. Reuniting with his wife, Norman proclaims to her, "I'm free," before he leaves the charred site of his unhappiness. Mother's chair rocks and the doors to the cellars close as her voice is heard inside stating, "Let me out of here. Norman. You hear me, boy? Let me out." The cries of a baby are then heard, signifying the birth of Norman's child and his release of his mother's influence. *****. Sheen and Alchemy gasped in horror. Sheen. He's a monster. Me. Yet. Norman Bates is one fucked up son of a bitch. He is extremely insane. But here's what happened when we revealed our findings at the Bates Motel. I pulled up the video footage of the press conference we had after investigating the killing spree at the Bates Motel in Arizona during the events of Worse Than a Psycho. *****. Me. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry for interrupting your everyday activities. As you all know, Norman Bates, the psychotic serial killer responsible for the murders of 8 people in the Bates Motel in Arizona, was sent to a maximum security insane asylum. Me and my friends here, along with the Arizona State Detectives, have just recently confirmed that Norman Bates has killed an additional 1,212 people. Here's the pictures of all the people killed with the help of my friend Lucy Loud in forensic anthropology. Lucy has already identified all of them with her powers. Here's a list of all their names and where they were from. A list was shown and it had their names and where they were from. Norman Bates now had numerous charges of murder added to his rap sheet. His trial was a long one and was broadcasted around the world. He was found guilty on all charges and he received 1,220 life sentences without parole plus 12,753,812 years in prison. But because his case was so high profile, he was to serve his sentence in the Lake Vostok, Antarctica Triple Supermax Secure Psychiatric Prison Unit. In the end, I cursed him with immortality so he can live in the prison for all eternity. He was also placed on 24/7 guard and monitoring. *****. Sheen, whoa. He killed that many people? Alchemy, he was a monster. Me, really fucked up monster in capital letters. He should have faced the chair, but he was declared incompetent to be executed. So in the end we cursed him with a fate worse than death. Eternal life until his sentence ends. He was given 1,220 life terms plus 12,753,812 years without parole in the Antarctica Prison Triple Max Psychiatric Prison Unit. Nico, I heard about that. That was awful that he did all that. Me, it was. Lainey, we found out that he has a disease called dissociative identity disorder. He has more than one personality in his body. Mike, total drama, he was in every way like me. But I had 6 personalities where he had 2. Me, that's true, Mike. Maria, it sure is. How are you and Zoe doing? Mike, total drama, we're doing great. We decided that we're gonna get married on the final episode of Total Drama. Me, that's awesome, Mike. That's only 5 months away. Nico, and that's when we're gonna bring Billy McLean in and kick his sorry butt. Me, you said it, Nico. Maria, to the viewers, if you ever build a pool over a graveyard, make sure that all the bodies are taken away. Me, you got that right, Maria. The end. *****. Another fanfiction complete and the first villain of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Destroyed. The Tale of the Dead Man's Float was a weird episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? That I remember back in my childhood. It was freaky and scary. But that zombie was ugly. Nico-chan 11 gave me the ideas for this. Thanks, man. The next villain we're facing from Are You Afraid of the Dark? Is the Fire Ghost. That one will burn you. Let me know what you all think. Next up is the post-apocalyptic dragon movie Reign of Fire. Get ready to burn. See you all next time.